Alright, Section 3, the cooling system. The cooling system varies with the engine of the freight locomotive independent of each of some of the every respect except for the A unit with the cab heaters. For direct motor-driven, the cooling fans are mounted with the main hatch for the above of the engine. The fan motors is electrically connected with the D14 alternator through the four contactors located in the electrical control cabinet of each of the contactors serving the fan motor. The contactors operated with the thermostat switch located with the outlet elbow over the right-hand radiator bank. The automatic shuttle is operated with two air cylinders located on each side of the locomotive. The cooling system is designed with the water level below the radius of the engine to shut down freezing of the radiators, thereby preventing the during the cold weather. When the system is heated by steam, the operating of the system at the level of allowing the additional advantage, eliminating expansion, overflow, loss of the radiator comb during operation. Amount of the expansion with approximately 15 gallons of the permanent visual indication of the indication of the loss of water means with the water level of the glass gauges. Distilled water should be used with the cooling system with offset the accumulation scale in the form of material which contributes to the overheating of the engine. Operation of the cooling system. Water is driven from the oil cooler water tank of the center with the central figure water pump located in the front end of the engine pump that circulate with the water bottom of each of the cylinder liner up through the core passages over the cylinder line cylinder head out through the outlet manifold of the engine with the water flow with the tube bank with the radiator section located in the main hatch over the engine. The water is cooled then returned through the oil cooler assembly and engine section figure 3.3 the section 3 with the manual description of the oil cooler and the water tank assembly. The radiator is cooled with the 4 AC motor driven with which received the continuous current with the alternator which built into the main generator. Automatic temperature control is arranged so that the fan motors do not operate until the shutters open approximately 166 degrees Fahrenheit. The fan motors are automatically started with consecutively at 169 degrees Fahrenheit according to the cooling demands until the fan motors are operating at 178 degrees Fahrenheit with all fans cut out with the shutters closed. But when the engine water temperature drops to 163 degrees Fahrenheit, the fan speeds vary directly with the engine speed with the proportion of the fan rates rotated at 1250 RPM with the engine speed turning at 800 RPM. But the number of the fan motors actually operating depends upon the cooling demands due to the weather conditions, load imposed on the engine. Operation transfer relay control with the sequence of fans cut in transfers relay. Section 6. At water temperature gauge located in the introduction line with the water pump to indicate the water temperature in the gauge. Automatic controller is operated with the water out temperature. The temperature is indicated with the gauge that must be shown at 12 degree below the temperature of foul load. The gauge of the color-coded dial with the black lines indicating the 120 degrees and 190 degrees point. Below 120 degrees, the dial is color blue. From 120 degrees to 190 degrees is green. 190 degrees to 200 degrees yellow, merging into the red. The full red above the approximately 200 degrees Fahrenheit normal operation range that indicated the wide area of the green section. Operating outside of the white greens should be investigated immediately for the cause. The temperature switch for the control automatic shutters are adjusted to maintain sternum while open and closed. The correct temperature should not be changed by any unauthorized person. Alright, then it's got blue to 120, and then it's got green from 120 to 90, and then there's a slight yellow between 200 and red. Filling cooling system. The system is filled with the filter pipe located on the roof of the locomotive above the water tank through the filler pipe at the rear of the unit at either side of the fill. With the system proceeds as follows. Open the filler valve G. Fill slowly when the water runs into the filler, filling the level of the pipe at the valve G. Close the filling level of the valve G. Start the engine run several minutes. This will eliminate air pockets in the system. Shut down the engine and open the valve G. Wait 3 minutes and add water until the runs and filler level pipe and close the filling and level the pipe G. Cooling system has a hot engine has been drained. Do not refill it immediately with cold water. If this is done, the sudden change of the temperature might crack the warp the cylinder liners and leads. The caution: do not attempt to fill the cooling system with a drain pipe located underneath the locomotive. 2. The system should not be filled above the maximum water level indicated in the water tank. Operating water level. There are two 16-inch water gauge glasses located on the water tank of the engine control and instrument panel. They are arranged with the glasses that overlap that provide with the fully operating water level. The coverage of the G valve is located above and the rear of the left of the rear of the engine door. The lever should never be above this point with the engine shut down. The drain from the valve passes through the funnel for each visibility. Operating water level extends over the water tank near the water gauge glass that indicate with the operating level of the capacity of the B unit cooling system at 220 gallons to the maximum level of 183 gallons. The minimum level of A units holding approximately 15 gallons or more due to increase the cab filters related piping. Adding water is something when necessary. With add water to the cooling system proceeds as follows. Shut down the engine. Add the water slowly until the runs and the filling of the pipe. Close the valve G. Engine should never be operated with the water below the water level. Progressive low watering of the gauge glass that indicates leaking with the leaking system cooling system. Caution: especially treated water must be used with the cooling system. Little water should be added except with the provided with the water station. By abnormal the cooling system water or absence for the corrosion inhibitor to indicate with the lack of the color should be noted with the locomotive log and reported with the first maintenance point. Engine high temperature alarm switch. The thermal switch is located alongside the engine control instrumental plane, which connects with the thermal element of the water outlet manifold of the engine. If the water temperature exceeds 208 degrees Fahrenheit, the switch closes with the light of the high engine alarm signal light, and the engine energizes with a single relay which rings the alarm bell. With the tube leading with the element to the switch must not be kinked or dented. If the high engine alarm, check the engine temperature gauge to determine the engine cause of the alarm. Take the engine offline. Check for cause of the inoperative shut for fast not running, low water, defective water circulating pump, or restricted circulation. Alright, checking the circulation. The water temperature dial gauge located in the water pump inlet elbow may be used with the means for the detecting the irregularity within operation for the cooling system. High water temperature is indicated. 1. Fans not operating. 2. Shutters not operating properly. 3. Insufficient water in the cooling system. 4. Faulty circulation. Alright, draining the cooling system. The water drain is located with the center line of the locomotive accessory and with the engine drain with the valve spills into a funnel in the floor of the locomotive, and is a pipe to the left side of the underframe with forward the number 2 bolster of the drain will empty the water tank of the oil cooler radiators all engines except for the bottom of the right bank of the water pump scroll. Remove the bottom pipe pump plug will drain the scroll should it be necessary to drain the cab headers at the A unit figure 3.2. The following steps should be taken. 1. Open the cab heater valve located on the step leading to the cab. Open the cab heater drain valve located in the number 2 sandbox on the left side of the locomotive with the valves drained with a completely. Then open the cab heater steam valve 2 with each over the cab heater. Open the steam line drain valve 4 on the right side engine over the foot to stop the foot of the step with the lead leading to the cab. Flushing the cooling system. Completely instruction of the flushing the cooling system is outlined in Maintenance Instruction 1706. For freezing water precautions, do not use any kind of the anti-freezing solution of the cooling system. The locomotive's left hand standing where there is danger of freezing the stem should be supplied when the cooling system of the system can be drained. Should it be desired that the heat of the cooling system engine is not running through, the following steps may be taken. 1. Open the G valve. Open the steam emission valve figure 3 located with the rear of the engine on A unit figure 3.3. The following additional valve must be opened in figure 3.2. Open the cab heater valve 3 above the left side of the leading into the cab. Open the steam emission valve 7 on the right side of the leading into the cab. C. Open the steam valves at each heater. 3. Make certain that the steam train line valves are open and if external source of steam is used. Alright, cab temperature control. The temperature cab with the control with the valve with the figure 3.2 with the threads 3-speed switch controlling this fan motor with each of the 2 cab heaters. The cab heaters will operate with the hot water from the engine cooling system equipped with the motor driven them for the maximum radiation. Alright, 1 shows the cab heater, 2 the cab steamer valve, 3 the cab heater valve, 1 and 2 are the cab heater steam valves. 3 would be your cab heater valve. 4, steam heading line drain valve. 5, the check valve. 6, the steam pressure reducing valve. 7, steam admission valve. 8, steam train line connection. 9, cab heater drain valve. 10, engine cooling water tank. Water pump. 1, 2 lubricating oil pump. 3 scavenging oil. 4 oil pump strainer. 5 lube oil strainer. 6 oil filter. 7 lube oil valves, not lube oil. 8 lube oil cooler. 9 cooling water. All right, the water is in blue and the brown is in the brownish red is in lubricating oil. Tank 10 the water tank level of the gauge. 11 the gauge valve G valve. 12 the roof filler, 13 low oil pressure alarm switch, 14 lube oil suction alarm switch, 15 cooling fan, 16 radiator, 17 thermostat switch, 18 cab heater, 19 cylinder liner, 20 engine sump, 21 side filter, 22 drains, 23 steam emission line, 24 bayonet gauge. Alright, Section 4, lubricating oil system. Lubricating oil system of the various engines throughout the locomotive are identical and independent with each of the oil store from the oil pan engine with the inside of the oil supply tank which classifies the engine wet sump type. Description of the engine lubricating oil system pressure system used with the 2 pounds with the displacement gear type pumps that combined in single unit. 1 pump delivers the oil pressure lubricating system, the other piston of the cooling. The oil pump supply with the pump, the drum with the oil strainer chamber with a combination suction pipe. A scavenger scavenging oil pump is used to withdraw the oil from the engine oil pan through the strainer, pumping it through the lube oil filter cooler core section of the oil cooler tank, returning to the strainer chamber. Figure 3.3 operation. When the engine is started, the pressure picks up from the bottom of the strainer chamber. The oil provides the initial supply of the lubricating engine with the scavenging pump with the refill with the strainer chamber. Until the scavenging oil reaches the strainer chamber, the pressure reads may read low on the engine control instrumental panel gauge. A baffle plate or dam tends to maintain the oil level of the cooler core temperature. Check cooler core chamber. The oil level will vary depending on the engine speed. Oil flowing over the dam return to the strainer chamber that overflows into the engine oil pan, keeping the scavenging suction pipe under load. If the oil is too cold, heavy, if the machine filter dirty, if the relief valve located in the filter housing open and bypass, the oil pass through the filters. The oil is too cold or heavy, or if the cooler core is dirty, the oil will flow over the cooler core into the strainer chamber to keep the pressure pump supplied. When engine running, the oil level should be always between low and full marks on the bayonet and engine gauge on the bayonet gauge of the engine oil. The oil level should be checked for the engine running at any speed. Adding oil to the system. When the oil is added to the system, it must be poured through the opening having the square cap on the top of the strainer housing. That should be round with the cap removed when the engine is running. The hot should round caps be removed when the engine is running. The hot oil under the pressure will come from the openings, possibly causing personal injury. If the engine stop, the oil added through the one over the round openings will not properly be filtered before entering the oil pan. Therefore, never attempt to add oil either at the round openings whether the engine is running or stopped. See Figure 3.3. When the engine stops, the oil cooler chamber core chamber will drain with the strainer chamber, then overflow with the engine into the engine oil pan, which will bring the engine oil pan bayonet gauge reading to the system chamber. The level below the system undercharge level to be covered. The oil is trapped in the lube oil filter oil lines and engine. Are your main bearing lubricating oil pressure. Lubricating oil pressure must be maintained at all times. When starting the cold engine, allow the idle from some time. The pressure to start with the build up and almost immediately. The pressure should rise with the cold engine to about 50 pounds. Will approximately 35 to 45 pounds at 800 RPM with the engine warm. The idle pressure should be at least 6 pounds. With a normal operation, lubricating oil pressure should not drop below 20 pounds while the engine running at 800 RPMs. However, the water temperature cannot be held at 108 degrees if it will permissible to operate the engine lubricating oil pressure rear end of the engine as low as 15 pounds. Low limit on the pressure can only be permitted while the oil pressure is in high as a result of the water temperature above the 108 degrees Fahrenheit. If the lubricating oil pressure below is above the limits to stop the engine, investigate the cause. Low oil pressure alarm switch. The switch is connected to the engine lubricating oil switch with the blower oil supply line in such a manner that the failure of the lubricating oil pressure will cause the switch contacts to open. When the contacts open, the master E-valve will de-energize the bringing the engine to idle lower oil pressure single light, while the light and alarm bells will ring all the units to which should occur. Do not attempt to load engine until the cause of low oil pressure has been located correctly. The alarm switch will not be given low oil pressure protection when the isolation switch is in the start position. Should the engine stop for any reason, the oil pressure will drop to zero. Low oil pressure alarm will operate the alarm, which thus serves to indicate that immediately engine stop at any unit. The lube oil suction gauge alarm switch. The lube oil suction gauge is mounted on the engine control instrumental panel will indicate high pump suction caused by clogged lubricating oil strain for the strainer chamber. The color-coded dial is marked off in green, yellow, and red blocks. The under normal condition, the needle of the gauge should be within the green portion of the dial. If the oil strainer becomes partially clogged, the needle will advance for the yellow portion of the dial. If the strainers become clogged to the extent where the pump suction reaches the valve, the suction alarm will set its operate and instant speed will reduce. Explain in the following paragraphs. If this should occur, the needle will be in the red portion of the gauge dial. Lube oil suction alarm was switched. It is vacuum switch connected with the suction side of the lube oil piston and the cooling oil pumps. The electrical connected master E-valve. Low oil pressure single alarm circuit. The purpose of the switch is to reduce the engine speed, energize the low oil pressure single alarm switch. Getting all the units the oil pump suction reach for the valve at which the switch is set to operate. Alright, operation of the switch with the most commonly occur with the full use speed. The engine with the pickup with the pump selection, increase with the engine speed with the switch, and operated with the E-valve circuit with the clip with the low oil pressure signal alarm circuit, or with the engine speed decrease with the due to the de-energized E-valve with the pump section with the decreased allowing the selection will reset with the re-energized E-valve, opening low oil pressure signal alarm circuit. The engine will then speed up the pump section engine again with the success with the cycle that will if this occurs, the engine should be isolated. Do not attempt to make the load until the cause of the lube oil selection alarm is corrected. The oil separator is mounted between the engine scavenging air blowers over the main generator. The vapors over the oil pan with the great gear train housing is drawn through the oil separator with the blower to intake. The metal screening in the separator condenses the oil from the vapor, return the oil from the engine oil pan. Possible lubrication troubles. Absence of the oil in oil strainer chamber. This may be coupled with an inoperative scavenging system or in an open drain valve. The failure of the scavenging system may be due to the broken loose oil line connecting, causing the air leak. Faulty scavenging oil pump with the closed clog suction strainer. Low lubricating oil pressure. This may be due to stuck with a relief valve, broken oil lines, clogged strainers, excessive bearing wear, low oil viscosity, faulty pump, or diluted oil. Failure of the oil pump. This may be due to the shear shafted, broken housing, damaged gears. If the relief of the valve sticks open, inspect with a dirty, large sheet solution. If the possible fuel oil, the getting and lubricating oil with the injector that's defective. If the fuel oil line is connecting the injector with the fuel oil manifold should become loose and broken, and it should be conditioned and excited, but the viscosity of the lubricating oil should be checked. Alright, on the road, dilution may be indicated with the gradual rise of the engine oil level during the operating of the locomotive. The oil pressure will also fall and read lower than normal. When the conditions are noted, they should be reported and investigated at the maintenance point. Your excessive oil consumption. They may be coupled with the oil leak of the broken suck piston rings, worn cylinder liners, damaged blow oil sealer, dirt, and clogged oil separator screen, the improper grade of the oil, excessive oil pressure, clogged drainage holes. Pistons under the oil control piston rings can cause by should be investigated or corrected. Little or no oil consumption. This may be due to the water fuel leaking into the oil. The issue that too heavy the oil and oil cause that should be investigated or corrected. Section 5, Fuel Oil System.